No pressure.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started this evening, and we'll begin with the good news from Mr. Sadoff.
Okay. Several things I shared with you there from the last few weeks. You had some pictures of the high school band and orchestra that hosted a solo and small ensemble contest. And congratulations to Mrs. Duran and her daughter. You have her as a best of center with her flute, Kate, as well as Soren Christensen on French horn. And then Mrs. Duran found out this morning too that then Kate has advanced to best of show for the state. I believe the state contest we just had, or what was it exactly? Or the region, Central Iowa? Central Iowa, okay. So,
Best of show is kind of like the dog's eyes of that one.
well, okay, best of center, that sounds better.
With flute, right?
Boy, I fumbled that one, okay, it'll get smoother, I promise.
Good news just changed.
Yeah.
We need a new title for that section.
You have some pictures there from the Build My Future event at the Iowa State Fairgrounds, and we had 30 students or so go up there in relation to our industrial tech program. We haven't put an emphasis on the trades, and Mr. Siebersma's presentation to you tonight too will kind of explain some of the efforts in that area. Then we had just a picture there from boys golf. They had won the Dutch Masters invite in Pella, and I'd seen that picture online. We also did have, we've had a number of other spring activities, things going on. We just had boys and girls track up at Drake Relays with some very good performances, and we've got tennis and soccer going as well. Then you have some pictures there from the Student Art Expo. That'll take place this summer as part of the Des Moines Art Festival, and those are students whose work was selected to be included in that show. And I put a note in there about the Governor's Scholar Recognition Program at the Iowa Events Center. That actually was just yesterday, and our two representatives there were Peyton Christensen and Carly Smith, and you have a little bit about those two students there. And then just put in kind of a fun picture too from ISASP testing day, the Iowa Student Assessment, the Iowa Assessment of Student Progress that has been going on in our buildings. Some middle schoolers wanted to get that off to a good start and have fun with that, so I put that picture in there. That's it for tonight.
So I got a quick question with the
Yeah.
golf. Don't the boys, I mean, they're predominantly a fall golf season, right? So they do spring, they pick a couple tournaments, maybe the conference and maybe this one?
Yeah, I believe
And
that's.
they do two less in the fall, they kind of,
I believe that's right, and I think it has to do with
well, it's because we're like
the,
4A, 5A,
Right.
but our conference does
exactly,
spring.
yep, that's exactly right.
Yeah, so I think they just kind of pull out a couple of big events
Yep,
for the spring
yep, I believe that's right.
and then do two less in the fall. Yeah, okay. So that's good, because they aren't really playing a lot.
Yeah, that's true, not practicing every day and still
Yeah.
perform well, yep.
Any other board member reports on anything?
I have one.
Welcome, Susan.
Hi.
Hot off the press, right?
Hi, hot off the press. No, just that we're starting to really advertise the May 11th Screenagers. 4 to 5:30 is the showing. 6:30 to 8 is another showing. We're lining up Silver Cord and Wesley Scholar volunteers. We'll have one room for childcare.
You said May 11, right?
May 11th, Tuesday, May 11th. It is free to attend the movie. If you want concession stands, you're on your own. And the district, is taking care of that. So it's moving. Did I miss anything?
I don't think so.
It's good.
Cool.
So if any of you have Facebook pages or newsletters that you could send out, Ray is going to update kind of the trailer. So you could send out this email with the 2-minute trailer on it. So hopefully we can.
The two times again, Sue?
It's 4 to 5:30.
Okay.
And then 6:30 to 8. So we're trying to get kind of pre-Little League practice maybe, before the little kids get into sports, and then after the big kids are done with sports. So
And they still have the
Hopefully.
cartoons that's showing in one theater.
Yeah, they just don't know what movie yet will be in the child care because it's really whatever corporate will put on that day. So, so we're encouraging maybe some of the youth sports, maybe to start practice at 6 that night. I think it's only 75 minutes, so we've already blocked in a little bit of time that way. But we're going to, Mimi's working on a survey that people come and can fill out afterwards. And then we will have our contracted mental health service providers there in the lobby. So parents can get information, they can learn who's at what school. And if nothing else, we can kind of make sure our parents know for next school year what the services are and everything like that. So they'll be out in the lobby.
Would it make sense, I think maybe we talked about this, would it make sense to also have maybe a flyer that people could pick up that talks about some of the things
Yep,
that our software allows parents to do for control? Like, it doesn't have to be like
Yeah.
a 10-page tutorial,
Yeah,
but
that's
just,
a great idea.
yeah.
We can have Ray probably come up with something on that, but that's a great idea. And then, yeah, and then working on, we'll just have to see how well it goes, looking at that follow-up movie or a platform to address questions that come through the survey or stuff like that. So it's coming together. So any advertising you guys, there'll be an email that goes out to the different schools and the guidance counselors and community businesses and stuff like that. So,
You may have said this, and I might have missed. Do you have to register for it, or people just show up?
no, I think the way we're gonna do it, just because it's later notice and all that, is because of social distancing, they're allowed 75 people per theater. And then because we have the whole thing rented out, they'll just open more theaters as more people come or go. And the children have to be potty trained if they're gonna be in the child care.
And will they send us a bill, or do I need to contact somebody there?
I will ask Chris, I'm speaking with Chris tonight, with some questions that Ray has too, so yes, I will let you know.
Any other board member reports? Okay. Move on to the approval of the consent agenda.
Nobody has any motions. I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Motion made by Ben to approve, seconded by Donna. Any further discussion by the board on the agenda? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. And next is our presentation.
I'm just here to speak a little bit about our progress within our career tech fields with the addition last year about this time, or maybe this, we explored the addition of a MOC, which is a multi-occupational coordinator, into our CT, career tech ed fields, which would allow us to pursue a little bit more of the work-based learning options that our students would have. And along with that, we also had to complete a comprehensive local needs assessment as a part of our process within our career tech fields. And that identified the need for an MOC along with some other needs that I'm going to talk just briefly about. So first off, with the multi-OC position, we have added a course called School to Career. So this would have came up with the curriculum committee, so you would have seen some of this, but just kind of give you some highlights. What students will do, so they sign up for this course just like any other course we would offer. And for the first quarter, they're going to have the opportunity to learn about some career basics, resumes, cover letters, interviewing skills, networking, and then also some of the soft skills. And I can tell you, we just had our advisory committee meeting here this past week, and I was in on the business meeting for a little while, and one of the big things they talked about were soft skills. And they mentioned some things about when we send kids out in the community, which was great feedback to hear from them. Things that we need to let our teachers know, that if they have student groups going to sell tickets or athletic groups going to sell different items to the public, we need to make sure kids have a basic understanding of what that should look like, it's not just a here you go, drop this off type mentality. But they brought up some really good points, which I'm excited to share. And Jamie Busby took down some extra notes so that we can share that with our staff this coming school year as well. But after the first quarter in that course, students will then be placed in internships. So when they sign up for the course, they also have to sign up what their field of interest is. So right now, we've got interest in the pharmacy area, finance, marketing, acting, HVAC, and electrician. So in those areas, what Jamie does then, once we've compiled that list, is she will go and make contact with different businesses that we'll place these students with for the remainder of the school year. That may lead to potential employment. It could just be training experience that may lead to furthering their education or training in that area based on that experience. But I think it's just one more thing to expose our kids to get them ready beyond high school. So it's not just about, a lot of our kids go to college, but a number of our kids also go to the workforce. So we want to make sure and give them some of those opportunities at the high school level and hopefully spark some more of that interest locally and regionally for them.
What grade level, Jeff, do they have to be taking this?
Typically it'll be juniors and seniors that will take the course. Yeah. Through that, there's been collaboration with the Chamber of Commerce. Jamie Busby's reached out to them and had multiple conversations. And for this coming school year, we've got 10 students that have signed up for the internship experiences. And I think that's a good starting point. I know in other schools that I've talked to within our conference, it will build, but you need to start somewhere, and I think that's a nice number. It's not so small like we're not worried about it taking off, but at the same time, it shouldn't be too overwhelming, and we should be able to get it going on the right foot. And then also hopefully build some really good relationships with these different companies locally.
How many credits is it? I mean, is it something where you've got to really be on top of your credits to do it? Or like your requirements? Maybe it's not credits, but you know what I mean?
It would be comparable to a student taking any elective course as a junior or senior. So they get the same number of credits if they were to take just an elective business course. So they're still gaining credit by being in it. There's also DMAC credit tied to the courses as well.
But like if they're doing an internship is it during the school day?
It's for up to 2 periods.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you might have classroom, or is it no classroom?
It'll be classroom for the first quarter, and then they'll go into the internship beyond that.
So it might take 2 classes worth of time the second semester?
Part of the first and the second, yes.
Okay. Okay. I'm not being critical of it, I was just trying to understand, because some people, if they're tight with requirements, they gotta kind of plan for that if they want to do that.
And I would say, in any situation, if you're tight on credits, you're probably gonna have to stick to more of the core credits.
Okay.
Because of that. But a student who is on track would have this opportunity, just as any others would.
Okay.
Because we do have, by the time students get to their senior year, there's quite a bit of flexibility in their schedules for the most part. Unless you are really, really driven academically and you've got a track in mind where your schedule's just jammed full, you would have an opportunity to do something like this your senior year if you wanted to pursue it.
Will they be able to work outside of the classroom, like after school or weekends and still?
It could lead to that. That would be a business, that would be up to the business and their partnership.
But to have the credit, they gotta do it during the school hours.
The credit would be scheduled into their normal day, yes. Another thing that has come from that, and Annette has shared as well, is the work-based clearinghouse. It's something that the state's been trying to push here for, I would say, at least maybe 1 or 2 years. It's newer, but Jamie's also partnering with our Chamber of Commerce to get this off the ground a little bit more and get it within our school walls. It's not just going to be tied to the work-based learning within our career tech fields, but it's going to be open to any classroom. Basically, it's a place where local businesses can push projects on this wall as a posting, and high school students can look at those projects and take them on as a part of a class. It could be a work-based learning situation, but it could be an English class or a science class, a math class, wherever it may fall, depending on what that project is. One example I can think of this year that wasn't a part of this, it would have been right up the alley, would be the art class with Pete's Pizza. I believe that was shared as some of the good news where they came together and they tried to rebrand Pete's Pizza. Well, that would be something that would fit really well on this wall where we could go and look and say, oh, wow, this would be great. We can do something here and kind of work with a local business to accomplish that. So that's another thing that we're excited to get going. Jamie, again, is the one that's going to kind of help to organize and oversee some of that, but it's not something that's just sticking with the career tech fields. It can go to any classroom in our school. So we're hoping to see that take off, and as we get things there, we'll surely share that out. And it's about really tied to that project-based learning idea. So give real life projects to our kids, and we can actually see the outcomes because it's local. So I think that'll be great as we get going with that as well. And then the other thing that I would touch base on comes down to our clubs. They're called CTSOs, so it's in career tech fields, we're required to have clubs. They've been around for a long time. You might know them as FFA, the Future Farmers of America. We have DECA in the business world, which is the Distributive Education Clubs of America, but that's been here for a while. And then another pretty common one in most districts would be a Family Career and Community Leaders of America, FCCLA, which is generally housed in our Consumer Science Department. And one that we are looking to add that is not as common, and I've not actually seen in action anywhere I've been, but it's one that's going to be pushed, I think, more and more in the industrial arts realm, is called Skills USA. And it's just another club or an organization that will offer our kids opportunities to show off their abilities, get involved in some project-based learning as part of a club or activity. And there'll be some different competitions tied to that. Our industrial arts teacher, Justin Hagens, has taken that role on and is excited about it. He's already got kids that are interested and signed up for it, even though we don't have an official group yet. But he's already talking with kids and really looking at the planning for it for this next school year. And I think there'll be some excitement there. It's something different, and it taps into a group that may not always be in something else. So there are some state level competitions for that. There's national level competitions that you can qualify for within that. But overall, it's just going to be another opportunity for our kids to show off their abilities and get connected into the industrial arts. So I think that's a great opportunity. And then the other thing I'd mention with industrial arts is Justin's also already looked at getting things set up for this next school year with regards to community and local businesses. You saw the We Build Our Future that he took students to here a few weeks ago. There's other opportunities like that are geared more towards the industrial arts fields, and he's looking into it. He wants to get those individuals to come into the school and speak with our students, and if there's opportunities locally or regionally that we can attend, he's really excited about it, and I think there's going to be some good push and support for that coming up in the next few years to really get our basis in that industrial arts field, which I think has kind of been lacking, and just due to availability and where we were at as a district. So I think that's excellent, and I'm really looking forward to working with him more on that. Any questions? I guess that's really some basic information about what's been going on.
The classes, so when they go out to do their internship, will a teacher be grading them or having the boss fill out an evaluation, kind of like you do when you go to college internships? You have
So it's a twofold process. So the business will provide feedback based on forms we would provide them, but then Jamie will also be required to go out and see the different interns in their areas and evaluate them that way as well. So it'll be partner between the two groups. We'll get the evaluation process done.
That's good, Jeff. That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
You're welcome. Thanks for sharing, Jeff.
All right. Next is our HR committee meeting report.
Everybody's, I was there.
I was there too. It's been a while.
Big discussion about the, I wouldn't call it a big discussion, but, you know, a lot of time spent on the health insurance package, potential changes as time goes on. And I think that, has that been shared with every committee so far?
Shared with finance and HR so far. So majority of the board, but not everybody. There's a couple that haven't been in there.
Okay. Is it possible for you to do a 90-second explanation?
Do you want to? Go ahead.
90 seconds.
Okay, ready, go. Okay, we've got 3 different plans right now. And the discussion has been, I mean, it started out with kind of a board discussion of, you know, how do we find the funds for possibly our people that are close to getting benefits, but we have to keep them, we have to restrict their hours. If we allow them to work the hours that to get them to a full day, we would be able to, we'd have to offer them insurance. To offer them insurance would be close to $1 million for the staffing that we have that has not had insurance coverage. So one way is to change the plan that we use as our base plan to be our high deductible plan, giving everyone a 2-year window to make that choice. They could still stay with the highest plan, which is a $1,000 plan, or they can come down to the $1,000 or $5,000 plan. They would have to buy up to that, to the more rich premium plan.
What it does really is it helps us with that associate pool. We've talked a lot about associates this year too, and we're able to not restrict their hours like we are today. We've increased their pay, thank you. And if we're able to offer them benefits, we'll get a better candidate pool that will support our entire district, our teachers and the associates and all of our students.
So it could be food service as well. It could be other hourly employees that would be effective to this. And it's also a prorated amount because they're not working 40 hours, they would be working less than that. So offering them to be a cheaper amount, they would pay less. But we need to think about do we do that or do we not do that? We've got 2 years to think about that. That's when the next contract comes up with the teachers and the associates. Not that is set in stone, but we could do that,
I think it's just kind of like we have talked about, it would be nice to do that. Obviously, throwing $1 million a year at something like that has impact. So trying to find a way that if we were serious about doing that and wanted to do it, how could we conceptually do that? So it would be just like, instead of funding for, the $1,000 deductible plan, you'd fund for the $5,000, so if people want to stay at the $1,000, they'd have to pay in to be that. So, don't lose sight of the fact that we're paying for it by taking that other plan down, and so people are contributing in some sense to fund the offering of this other by having the base plan be a cheaper plan. So, it's a big decision to make, and I don't think we're trying to make the decision, but we're trying to gather facts and get an appetite if that's something that we're interested in doing.
I'll point out, we marked it from the committee for further study. So I emphasize, any board member that doesn't understand this, and I understand this great some days, and the next day I can't figure it out. So if you don't have an understanding, make an appointment with one of the 2 characters at the end and try and get it down, because this ends up to be a lot of money, but something to be a good deal for us. We had our HR director present an overview of the current staffing needs. And do we have anything new to add? Within the minutes, any positions hard to fill, yada, yada, yada?
I think one of the bigger positions right now are those instructional coaches, and our instructional coordinator is going back to the classroom, so we're filling those, and those have to be internal positions. So the domino effect of those internal positions then open up some other positions that just making sure that we get everything handled pretty quickly, but we've had good candidates, and
So we've had quite a few candidates then.
We've had some, quite a few, maybe a stretch, we've had some candidates, so looking forward to working with them. We close Tuesday, is that what we put it down? Yeah, so Tuesday's the last day to apply for those open instructional coach positions.
Those are internal filled.
We think we can film though. I mean,
I'm concerned that we'll have two that won't get filled, but we'll see.
is that at a certain school?
Right now, where there's two openings at the high school and there's one at Whittier, I'm concerned that the ones in the high school probably won't get filled, but we have until Tuesday to see if there'll be applicants for that.
So they'd have to leave their teaching job to go do this, right?
But the teaching job is guaranteed. If they want to go back, it's guaranteed.
Oh, so they
Right.
can go back at any time? Or they have to complete a year of,
Well,
they'd have to
Well,
complete
they'd
a
have
full
to
year
complete
of,
that contract.
at the end of the contract, yep.
so at the end of the contract year, they could.
How does that work if there isn't an opening in what they teach at the high school?
Right, so that's kind of where the hesitation has been for a lot
Yeah.
of staff, because they're here supporting the rest of the staff, and then it's a seniority. So if they decide they want to go back to the classroom, the lowest seniority in that, in their department would then, be downsized. So they don't want to do that. So sometimes people will stay until that position opens and they can get back into the classroom, but.
How many candidates do we have
How many candidates do we have right now? 2.
for 3 positions?
And that's when that discussion comes up about term limits. If you put a term limit on it and say you must go back, it could rift somebody in a sense, but oftentimes what we're hearing is teachers, if they really love their grade level and or the team of people they're working with in certain schools, you're guaranteed a position you're certified for, but it doesn't mean you automatically would go back to your same building, same team, same grade level. And so there's just a lot of layers of complexity in making that decision if you would want to do that type of a leadership role.
Do you think that's why there's a lot of hesitation then?
There could be, and we have the 2 applicants in the 3 positions, but if you're coming from an elementary school, it's hard then to jump into being a coach at the high school. Those are way different skill sets sometimes. So, it doesn't always match up. You are district level instructional coaches, but that skill set doesn't always align to the openings that we have available.
And then we also have the coordinator, or is that one of the 3 positions?
One of the instructional coaches has been interviewed and will be moving into that position. I think that was on your approval.
Yeah, we approved it.
Yeah, we approved
Yeah,
it.
which is why there's one of those openings at the high school. A high school instructional coach is moving into the coordinator
So
position.
there's 3 after that one was fulfilled?
Yeah.
Okay, I get it.
We then moved on to, and we had talked about the thing that we already explained got solved with COVID clinics for school, which we're not doing, but we're giving our outside facilities for drive-throughs. Then we're back with the thing that we've talked about before, the secretary's pay schedule, which is that on tonight's agenda?
Yes.
Does anybody not understand that?
I'd like an overview, because it's been a while. Like,
I
what
think
are
it's
we
great.
trying to accomplish? What are
Yeah, so the goal is, at the secretary level, right now we have 4 different secretary levels. In 2 of those levels, there are 3 people. And so we're kind of trying to consolidate, but also make it easier to move about the district. If you had a skill set and you were at let's say, district level is the highest level, if you were at a district level secretary position, but you're burnout or there's another opportunity that you want to try, but it's a lower secretary level, even though the skill set might be the same, you can't transition throughout.
So at a real simple level, is anyone negatively impacted in their current positions from this change? Okay.
Our secretaries have all been here quite a while.
We got some new ones, I mean, they've
I know,
got-
yeah, but I mean, pretty much quite a few of them have been here.
They do, we have really good staff that,
Yeah.
in all the buildings, in all the areas.
We would consolidate them all up to the highest pay level, and then their contracts are different based on number of days worked, which is, we don't need to separate within the days.
And we don't feel like there's a difference in skill set between one position or another?
There are some, but at the same time, you know, all positions have, you know, when we had a payroll secretary, they were a payroll expert, but they were still on the secretary pay schedule. Could they have done what the building secretaries do? Maybe not, but they could have learned it. But the secretary type, administrative type things, just maybe a different kind of focus.
But the pay, in your opinion, like the pay is equitable, like it makes sense to have one flat? Okay.
And to me, anytime we can have a schedule, definite schedule or anything, we're better off in the long run. You know, we can make things go instead of having it all individual. And I think that was all. Did I miss anything?
That is an action item for the secretary pay schedule.
It's coming up.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to grant approval for the administration to merge the current 4-tier secretary pay schedule into a single pay schedule.
Second that.
Seconded by Lori. Any further discussion by the board on this item? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next is the bond.
The legal proceedings that we have to do. So each of those do require a separate motion. And Rob will have to sign his life away when we get all done here. That basically that we've crossed the T's and dotted the I's to move this forward.
And that being said, I'm gonna volunteer to be the spokesperson for it. So, I know, I move approval of the resolution appointing the paying agent, bond registrar, and transfer agent, approving the paying agent, bond registrar, and transfer agent agreement, and authorizing the execution of same.
Motion made by Carolyn, seconded by Sue. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Then I will move approval of the form for tax exemption certificate.
Motion made by Carolyn,
Second.
seconded by Donna. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
I move approval of the continuing disclosure certificate.
Motion made by Carolyn,
Second.
seconded by Lori. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Finally, I'll move approval of the resolution amending the resolution authorizing the issuance of approximately $7,315,000 general obligation school refunding bond series 2021 and levying a tax for the payment thereof.
Motion made by Carolyn,
Second.
seconded by Sue. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
It's gonna take him longer to sign the things than it did for you.
Good job,
So-
Carolyn.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you.
I can read.
Okay. Next is the board finance committee report. Yes. Oh wait, I wasn't at that one. Donna and Aaron.
I'll let Jonna just give the update of if you know anything even more with the COVID funding, if there's anything.
Okay, as you can see, the new round of COVID funding, so this is another acronym that Ken likes. The American Rescue Plan for Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief. So that's ARP ESSER 3. We're receiving about 2.6, just under 2.7 million. Of that, 20% needs to be reserved for, they call it learning loss or just catch-up. You know, really it's more catch-up, you know, that we need to do. And it has to, those pieces, that $500,000 has to be evidence-based. So it can't just be that you want to do something without, you have to have something that is proven to work. And so that, I'm working with Annette, we have to figure out what that is.
Does it have to be done in so much time?
We have through June of 2023. So,
Have we announced any sort of summer school? Or what our plans are, because I'm fielding a ton of questions on kids that parents that feel their kids are behind in math and reading? And is it an option? Is it an option for middle school? What is going on? And I didn't
I don't know
really
that I have an answer to that, do you?
I've not seen an announcement on middle school, but I know there's been conversation, and I know that Mrs. Ellis was canvassing teachers to see who might want to teach in the areas of math and reading. So I know there's an intention to do it. I have not seen an announcement yet.
So do we have any idea when our parents can expect information out at the elementaries
I
for summer
can,
school?
I can follow up. I would
Okay.
hope
What's-
soon.
What's the reading we do at Whittier during the summer,
It's a summer school.
Ed Johnson is the administrator who oversees
Right.
the summer school, and so he's been preparing that information, which they focus in on the literacy
Right.
for the early childhood pieces. So typically they're looking at their FAST data right now to see who qualifies for that, but I don't know too where he's at with having pushed that out. I'd be surprised if he hasn't, because he was talking about that with me a couple weeks ago.
I know that we found some teachers to teach both at the middle school and the elementary, but I'm not sure, and I don't know historically if we typically pick which kids need it and we select them, or if it's an open door if you think your child needs it, because I think there was some concern about if we open the door to say, I think my child needs summer school, that we would
We've had to be pretty targeted in the past in terms of grade level and students who were discrepant based on their assessment scores. It hasn't been wide open just because of the capacity to serve.
And we're using the early literacy monies to pay for that, the ELINE funds, so.
Which it could be COVID money as well, but we do have those funds available, so.
So could we use some of this money if we find that we do have several parents that say they may look fine in their FAST scores, but they know that they're really struggling?
Well, we'd have to figure out what there's still a lot of things coming down from the DE and then the federal Department of Ed on what they mean by evidence-based, because there may be, it can't just be, hey, I think we're gonna just do summer school and we're gonna do something, very, very small scale or not programmatic almost, right? So
So somewhere along the line, parents are gonna start being communicated to on summer school? Okay.
Yeah, I would think it would have to be in the next week.
Well, I mean, it's May 1st.
Yeah.
It's coming right up.
Saturday,
Yeah.
so, okay.
Even if we know they're behind because of their test scores, we can't use that as fact-based? I mean, I would think that shows we're really, if we got,
What we have is evidence-based. I would say that piece we can show, it's whether they have found staffing for the number of kids that it would be, that would involve. So I think that's the follow-up, like she said, with Ed and.
okay, I was just wondering if we could make that fact, I mean, that'd be a fact that we're
Yes,
behind.
at the lower
Everybody
level,
is, yeah.
typically doesn't have summer school.
So mass testing is over though, everybody's done.
They still have their last one from this year, but typically they use their winter results and look at their progress monitoring up to this point.
Yeah, okay.
We just finished though, didn't we? Didn't they just do it?
Yes,
At the
ISAP.
middle school this past
And
week?
elementary.
Yeah.
And their
was the
ISAP, so they
ISAP.
have here in May, kind of goes into their next round.
So when will we get the results from those?
As soon as they complete that, it takes, after that Friday, then the state runs that data again.
So quick turnaround.
Oh, it is.
For the literacy piece.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
Not for the ISAS.
Not for the
We won't get reports, I think, until August, didn't you tell me, Mr. Strong?
Systems level.
Yeah.
right.
Right. But the other ones we'll get like right away.
We don't see the need at like a high school level, like a summer type program or anything.
They do more, typically they do more credit recovery at the high school level. And I think that's the plan still, utilizing a tool probably like Odysseyware.
Any other questions on that?
I'll continue on. So the next item we talked about was, which is good news, is that the, our self-funding health and dental looks like it's adequate. And we didn't increase the rates for this year. And we talked about the fact that, it had a keep people healthy, keep claims down, so to speak, that a goal could be to start a wellness activities, because we can use some of that, some of the funds to fund for that. Kind of more to come.
Has there been any lag because of COVID?
I don't, are there lags because of COVID? I don't know if anyone knows quite yet.
Yeah, I don't know that either.
It's something to watch for though. I personally feel like there probably will be.
Yeah, for election,
Yeah.
Yeah, people going in for checkups and just elective procedures. The next item was what we just talked about, just more discussions, awareness about the, potential change if we thought we wanted to do that for the, moving from a base plan of $1,000 deductible to the high deductible $5,000. More to come, that was just more educational. But if we do decide to do that, it's probably very beneficial for employees to have kind of this transitional approach.
That's too much school board for action, is that?
I don't think
At
so.
some point, not now.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, definitely at some point. I'm gonna let you handle the PEPAL thing.
Okay, Apple, it's a, as we look at funding the auxiliary building, the highest cost we had, this is from the projection that we received from Envision Architecture, the document piece. The highest part was the 5.4 if we did precast versus pre-engineered. So the board will have to decide what route they want to take for that. But I tried to assume the 5.46 to see if we can fund that. And if you look at that save funds, there's 4.4 million, and you'll see that in the document, the spreadsheets. And PEPAL, there's about 2 million in the next 2 years. So we've really narrowed down our focus to be just that, because originally I think I had us going out another year, not knowing how soon it would be, but to get it done in this year and this current year, which basically what will happen is that will carry over, it'll be unspent and will carry it over to next year. And see, it may, if it does go over to the next funding year, it would work, but I mean, I think we could make it work within this current year's funding and next year's funding. Because I'm looking at 6.4 million and we're looking at 5.4 with all costs supposedly included. But it gives you some wiggle room if expenses go up higher than we thought, than what they've estimated for us. So we have the ability to do it with $1 million to spare, and with that will, we've taken some of the stuff out of there so we can focus on this building project versus technology. Technology can be moved to general fund. The other piece is technology could be used as a COVID expense. So
What's the next step?
we're meeting tomorrow or this week with Envision to talk through the
Wednesday.
next steps. So
But the next step actually is tonight, getting permission from the board to proceed with the planning, and going forward with the project.
Is that further in the?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
like
Yep.
65.
There is a lot to this, it's a way to do it. Just because we can do it,
Right.
what's the best way to do it? Nice conversation with John today, I didn't realize, we're talking about funding this out of 2 years. And if you take a good look, PEPAL we've never done in the whole lifetime here. Use that for this type of thing. But if you take a good look at the sheets for the PEPAL and the SAVE, you'll see we're in there for this year. There's $1 million here, a few things are in there. But it's still gonna spend a lot of that money, it's all gonna go towards the building. And it's gonna take us pretty low, which I think is fine. But I said, if, in that second year, and these funds are down, can we just go because we'll have more money the year after that, can we just go to the bank and borrow money? And she says, it's legal, but I don't know if it's a good idea, because that pretty much
well,
summarizes
you
what
could, or, we have a nice balance in the general fund, or we've been able to maintain that. It may be best to shift some of the expenses from the legal expenses, like the technology, you could move that to the general fund. The general fund then, you'd spend that down, and then we would use our cash reserve to bring our cash back up, because what's gonna happen is your cash will go down, your spending authority is still gonna be fine. But we kind of do a cycle. If you remember, there's been a couple years when we basically do $90,000 worth of cash reserve, which this year we're doing quite a bit more. We're going over $1 million. But it cycles like that with the cash. So cash, if you had the difference between cash and budget authority, you want budget authority. because you can always pop, at some point get your cash. So yeah, I think we could shift some of the expenses to the general fund, using that, bringing that back up the next year without, trying to keep our tax rate steady so that we're not jumping, going from really high tax rate, drop it the next year to $1. You don't want to be doing that. It's very confusing to the taxpayer. So.
And it's kind of important you understand this, because these are funds that have been growing, allocated at the same tax rates basically for years, which is how we're able to do this without raising any taxes. We're just changing how we're spending it.
What's
I was
happened,
concerned about that, and she filled in, so.
what's happened with the legislature with that levy?
I haven't heard anything else.
I saw your letter and I just didn't know.
Right, there was a bill that was in committee that was proposing doing away with the Pearl levy, which you all recall our voters passed here just 2 years ago, or a little over a year ago. And that's called the playground levy. And then we can use that for those purposes, recreational purposes, as well as at some point if we do something with community education. Well, the concern was that if the legislature takes away a voted levy like the Pearl, that they could move on then to another voted levy like the PEPL, Physical Plant Equipment Levy, which would be a much bigger deal. The Pearl levy gives us some flexibility, helps us save for playgrounds, whatever we're going to use it for. Doesn't bring in a lot of money. It's a maximum of 13.5 cents per thousand per year. But our voted PEPL, 34 cents a year, along with board-approved PEPL, $1.34. We're buying school buses out of that every year, for example. That would be a much bigger deal if that ball got rolling. And I think the concern on the part of the people that question it is, why will the legislature swoop in and undo a decision that local voters made?
Right.
So that's
And
kind of what Donna's asking about, but I'm not aware that that's moved forward out of.
I read some of the bills and I didn't see it, but I didn't know if, okay.
Yeah, I think Brooke sent an update.
Good. I just didn't know if you had any new information.
Brooke sent an update, and I think she said it was still in committee.
That's my understanding, that it is still in committee.
Are they close to the end?
Well, the statutory end is April 30th, and that's when their per diem runs out.
I was up there last week and they said they're looking at like a May 10th end.
What they'll do lots of times, if they get to that April 30th, is they'll adjourn and then they'll call people back in. I do know they don't have their budget done yet, which is a big thing right now, so.
Thanks.
Yeah, the next item was the flexibility fund, which I have to admit I didn't realize how that worked. But basically, there's funds that were for professional development, sometimes, training, and those weren't used because of COVID. And so the request is to move the balance of this, because it's going to keep growing, so it's just like that year that we didn't really travel. Move the balance to the flexibility fund, which allows us to purchase curriculum, and then the funds that were committed to curriculum can be reserved for training for staff other than teachers.
Which we, would use general fund dollars for those in any other way, but if we can do this, it does let us make it locally controlled, locally watched for all that different PD that we do for associates, we can do for, any of our staff members versus just the teachers, so.
The reason why I went to do that and talk to the TQC committee is because TQC funds can't be used to support stipends for teachers if they're doing like maintenance work on their curriculum. So for example, we have this new English language arts curriculum coming into the elementaries. Work needs to be done on that for teachers to align their assessments with their data points for the report cards. They have other work to do to even, get the assessments ready and those things. TQC funds can't be used for that. TQC is solely for ongoing professional learning. And so then how do we ask teachers continue to do that work, on top of their hours during the school year when some of them may opt, if given the opportunity, to say, hey, I would like to work on this for my team over the summer for maybe it's 5 hours or 10 hours, and then we could pay them that $20 per hour rate to do some of this maintenance type work at their leisure and have that end product versus trying to do that during the school year on top of their other things that they normally try to do.
So it would be for teachers on other roles, so that was my fault. I didn't speak that correctly. So it would be teachers that can't be used for the TQC. So.
We need to take action on that tonight.
No, and we will need it, the flexibility, it has to go through, I have to put a, if
Oh, that's
you
the
want
one
us
where
to
it has
move
to be.
forward, then we have to have a public hearing, and then we have to bring it back to the board.
Okay.
And make sure that we've covered all the things we need to cover with those funds, and able to move, and then move those out, so. To be honest with you, I was not, I didn't pay attention to it much, because we always used all our funds. And then COVID hit and changed the way we do things.
This is just a one-time deal, probably.
This would be a one-time deal. I mean, this is something that could happen from year to year to year. The other piece is, when I do my end of the year reporting in September, there's another fund that's got a growing balance, but it's preschool. Preschool then would buy their own playground equipment out of that. So I don't see a problem with that, and at some point, we hit the playground as an update, we can offer those funds for that, so.
I hope that gets pursued.
Okay, we'll move forward on that.
Next, we'll go to page 65, and that is the approval of the auxiliary services building project.
Well, I'm gonna move this in a minute, but I do have one question before I do. When will we make a decision about which outside of the building, precast or?
Maybe you could, if you wanted to focus that right now, you could. I asked the question, is it a good idea to have an alternate for one or the other? But the difference in the load on the building from one to the other would make it a large difference. So I think that they would like you to decide if you want to go precast or engineered.
How many years did we get out of that for the
This one's about 30 years old now, so it'd be a metal building versus a precast concrete.
How many extra years out of the
Concrete. Well, it's like it would look like the middle school with the tilt-up walls.
a year? Do you remember that?
Precast, I think, will last a lot longer, and the price difference isn't that significant. I would think it would be a better option, a better investment long-term.
And it's gonna be
I think it was
amongst,
more than a year, Rob.
Oh, yeah.
It'll look better.
yeah,
It's also
I
right.
thought it was like 15 years.
Yeah, it was a lot more.
like 5-0.
It was,
Oh, like 50 years.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It'll look better, it'll last longer,
Yeah.
and the price difference isn't that significant.
Do those price estimates include demolition?
Demolition might be a contract we hold with a local contractor. I know when we did the DOT building, we had a local contractor do that. And there was asbestos, they had to remove that in that DOT building. This one, we've removed, we believe, all the asbestos out of the old admin building. Is that what you're talking about, or?
No, I'm talking about
About
the bus barn.
That bus barn? Well, I don't know if that's not considered, that might be a storage, just a cold
Right now,
storage.
yeah, we don't plan to immediately demolish that. That could end up being a storage facility. And then depending on what happens longer term with the high school, that's kind of a prime place to expand, so.
I'm gonna move approval for the administration to proceed with planning for a new auxiliary services building of a precast nature in cooperation with Envision Architecture.
Okay, motion made by Ken. You got that language in there. Seconded by Lori. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next is the facility, no, it's the transportation, suburban.
few years ago, we purchased a Suburban, and now they'd like to get another one that are either used for small groups of staff or students, student and staff people, or right now we're transporting a special ed student out of district. So if we had that for another one, it's a nice, safe, bigger vehicle. They feel more comfortable. It's kind of, they put a school bus sign on it, so it's based as a school bus, but it could be used as others as well, so.
There's certain mileage on those Suburbans when they're taken out of service.
You mean when we take them out?
Yeah.
We've not had this, since they've not had vehicles, we have old vans right now that we use that basically we turn it into facilities, make them a facilities van. So the problem is, they're not, the vans are more difficult to drive or seem more, that people are more comfortable driving the Suburban, a staff member is. So I don't know what that would be.
Yeah, we
It's
really
when
don't
you
have
drive
a
them into the
history there.
ground, right?
No.
Meaning the vans, we've driven into the ground. We finish them and they go away to the junkyard.
Those, I mean, surely when this gets to a certain age or mileage, we can repurpose it in the district.
Yeah, definitely, and we have, as John was saying, they're considered like a school bus. When we go through our bus inspections, they'll look at the Suburbans too. You know, there'll be a point at which Transportation Department will say, this is not something we want to send out of town with a tennis team or something, so.
And usually it's, I would say about 15 years, could be less than that, but that's what our buses are, 15 years, about.
We usually have a local bidder.
Typically you have, if you go onto the state website, they have identified a certain bidder, which is Carl. And so we just ask, because sometimes if they have one that they can retro into a school bus, but it doesn't sound like, I mean, 2022s are not out yet, so this is a 2022. We've done it before where we've gotten it and it's been lower than the state bid price, which is unusual, but if you don't ask, you don't know. So he always asks. I make him ask. And he said, but it's the state bid price. And I said, just ask. So
that's why they did it, probably, okay.
they knew they couldn't.
Strange, okay.
Probably.
Yeah.
So we just need approval of that.
I'll move that we accept the sole bid from Carl Chevrolet for the 2022 Suburban.
Motion made by Carolyn,
I'll second it.
seconded by Donna. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
I do have one question. So will they have to be certified to drive?
They
Will they have to have
go.
a bus?
If they're driving adults, no. If they're driving students, they have to have
CDL.
a Class A CDL for the.
Okay. I was just curious, because,
Not the same one as a bus driver, it is a different one. I don't know
Right.
if it's Class A or B, I know for sure.
okay.
But yeah,
And anytime we have employees transport students, even in town, there's a process they go through. They turn in their driver's license, their insurance.
check their
applied,
driving record,
Yeah.
yeah.
But a bus driver could drive that Suburban if it was just like 2 or 3 that qualified for a state something or other.
Right, if they're qualified for a bus, they can be qualified.
Right, okay.
Next is the facilities projects update.
Kind of quiet right now. The one exciting thing is the auditorium renovation. There are 4 interested contractors that attended the pre-bid meeting, which is good. Features are complete in the gym. Now they're needing paint, and then they'll do the floors, so.
I haven't been in the gym. What color are the bleachers? No purple?
Not purple, right?
They are.
Yeah.
It's a new.
Oh, a different product. That's right. I saw a picture from Bernie. I forgot that, yeah.
Yeah. All the other
Are
other
they more
schools.
softer?
Yeah,
Yeah.
other schools that have purple, which
I'm
are.
not sure they're
Backs
more
on it?
comfortable, but hopefully they won't break.
Yeah,
I don't think they're
but
bad.
Norwalk and Waukee both have purple and they have no problems for whatever
I
reason.
was at Waukee and saw theirs. I was sitting on them. I went, they felt different than ours. That's why I was wondering if they had something.
So I don't know if these are heavier duty.
I hope to see it personally, so.
They felt different.
Yeah. I mean, you could tell the material. I mean, it just looked, they weren't cushioned or anything.
More comfortable?
No,
Still Bleacher City.
Still a bleacher. Yeah. Still bleacher.
still a bleacher, yeah.
right, next is the board policies.
We were down to just adjusting one change, am I right?
There were two that we made slight changes to, and I put those on as a first reading tonight.
Okay.
Yep, 211, we just added, under the open meetings, just added plain language. Just, just people speak, make a concerted effort to explain acronyms, and I must say that Jeff did a phenomenal job tonight. Mainly that's for anybody watching, or for us who don't understand the acronyms, so they can follow along, so. Jeff set an amazing example on that one tonight, so. The other one was regarding the cameras in the schools. Art reached out to Chief Button in the police department, and they said that they would like access to them, and so we just added that in there. As far as how that will happen, I don't know if we got any further than that quite yet, or.
No, just that they have desire to have it. We'll allow in policy, then we'll have to work out, how they're monitoring or who they have.
So we're okay legally then?
Yep.
During an emergency
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah,
Not
on board.
all
Yeah.
times.
Yeah, and I mean, they're not gonna have a desire to be trying to monitor it all the time anyway.
And just
so-
be if they got 911 call, a shooter or
Yep.
something.
And then kind of on an unrelated deal too, also in that same conversation, with Chief Button, identified several, Sergeant Culler and Sergeant, Largest with the police department, kind of their points of contact for the safety stuff, so.
All
probably
the
be-
alerts.
Yeah, so that'll be our point of contact there, so I'm sure there'll be some follow-up with that as we plan that out further. The only other thing on the policy is we retired we talked about retiring 204E.1, which is just kind of a piggyback off 204, which is the board ethics. Board ethics is a nice paragraph that is pretty simple, just be ethical as a board member. The other one kind of is like I think I called it's kind of like the Boy Scouts, I promise to do this, I promise to do that. We kind of got rid of that one, it was a little redundant. I mean, it's pretty simple, act ethically and do what's in the best interest for our students. So that was about I don't know, did you think of anything else?
No, it was a lot of time just to chat at that meeting.
Yeah, we changed just some wording, annual, how do we word that, our annual and?
We put organizational and annual in together. You have an annual meeting, but then when you have a board election year, it's considered an organizational meeting. And just trying to put those together and clear up a little confusion if possible. It is, it's stated to us now when you need to do that after this August 31st date or after the election. So,
So we've got one meeting that does those things each year.
yeah, that's what ISB in their guidance suggested anyway, was syncing those up. So we're trying to make that make sense in policy too, so.
Okay, so am I right, Art? We need two motions here, second reading on some, first reading on two.
I think that'd probably be better, yeah.
Okay. First, John, if I just say the second reading on those policies, would you know what we're talking about?
I do.
I'll move the second reading on the policies discussed last time.
Okay, motion made by Ken to approve,
Seconded.
seconded by Donna. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
I'll move first reading of the two policies that we talked about this evening.
Motion made by Ken. Seconded by Lori. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next is the board calendar. I know we have to reschedule IT,
Yeah, did he give us a date?
He sent us a survey.
a survey.
Oh, he did? Oh, I was
I can't do anything this week. That's why.
Sue and Donna, you're good tomorrow for instructional rounds? Okay,
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
I just have to leave at 2.
that's fine. We'll either be done or just so close it won't matter.
Okay, good,
Yep.
okay, great.
Yep.
Art, were you gonna ask?
Yeah, one other thing on next board agenda, May is School Board Appreciation Month, and You can see on that sample agenda, we have a reception in honor of Board Appreciation commencing at 5. What we have done some years, and I'm happy to continue to serve as chef that night. If you want me to make dinner for you, I'm happy to. Just let me know what kind of protein you want, and then other people pitch in and bring other stuff. So if you'd still like to do that, if you'd like a little cookout for that reception, we can do that. And we don't have another meeting before then, or I might not remember.
We only have one meeting in May.
Yeah, we do, just have the one meeting on 17th, I believe it is. Yeah.
Are we going in or out? Is that ever?
Planning on being out.
Has that ever been discussed? I mean, I
Yeah,
heard Don, I heard Ed, and.
No, Mr. Siebers must sense, I mean, it's weather dependent, but we're planning on going outside, weather
The
permitting.
football stadium.
Right,
If it
because-
rains, they're going inside and only allowing 2 people per.
Correct, yep, yep,
That's the 23rd, correct?
yes, 23rd,
At 1 PM?
yes.
Right.
It'll probably be 100 degrees.
So,
Good.
anybody care to enlighten me on what you would like to eat at your reception?
Last year you did well. Keep it the same.
I'll do well with whatever, I don't want to go look back at last year. Tell me what you want to eat. You can change if you want to.
Nope, salmon's good for me.
Okay?
Oh, running
They
the
told
middle.
them die
Come
to
on,
say
guys.
something. I
That's
don't
fine.
think-
I'll just have what they
Salmon.
have.
That's fine for me.
Salmon?
That a girl. I'll just have what they
Say,
have.
I'll have Jonna's rhubarb.
I know,
With a side of hamburger. Or cheeseburger.
People are picking their
whatever.
rhubarb now, Johnny, you do know
They
that.
are. I've already froze some, so my mom made a pie with it the
I'll
other
do
day.
the burger.
I'll take a hamburger.
Hamburger, cheeseburger, cheeseburger.
Cheeseburger, yeah.
I'll do a cheeseburger.
I'll change mine to a cheeseburger.
Cheeseburger,
Got it.
cheeseburger,
I got it.
cheeseburger, cheeseburger.
Peer pressure.
Carolyn, you
I
the
got
last one.
Mine said cheeseburger.
Your cheeseburger too. You guys are keeping it easy for me.
Yeah.
Ken, I didn't hear your,
Cheeseburger, cheeseburger, cheeseburger.
This is May.
17th, I believe it is.
So that starts at 5.
Mimi? You can get whatever you want.
You can go steak, whatever.
Man,
Steak.
Ron Lorenz ordered steak one year. I made it for him.
Yeah.
Jonna?
Smallest steak I ever saw, but you made it for it.
Annette?
As long as we have rhubarb, right?
This is 5. Is it starting at 5?
Ray usually gets brats, I think. Okay, thank you.
Is that starting at 5?
Are we eating at 5 or
Eat,
meeting?
yep, I'll have it ready at 5, so that gives you a little time to eat before your meeting.
And John is bringing stuff too.
And yeah, the cabinet will they bring the extras, they bring the side dishes. And
No pressure, Jonna. No pressure at all.
Ken hates rhubarb.
I hate that.
Can you make a room for me?
Well, that's fine, more
I
for
can bring
us.
pickles.
No, we have to move to go to closed session first.
Oh, we're ready for closed session?
Yes.
I move that we go into closed session for the purpose of evaluating the professional competency of an individual whose appointment, hiring, performance, or discharge is being considered when necessary to prevent needless and irreparable injury to that individual's reputation, and that individual requests a closed session.
Made by Ken,
Second.
seconded by Lori. Ready to vote to go into close.
Aye.
Now, going into close.
Okay, make sure.
Hey, Art, where is, Kate Tipping gonna be?